I'm happy to be here to expose my speech about this subject, that is how the use of the unstructured data could help to create indicators that could help the risk management inside the companies. I will share I start to share my presentation. Okay, here it is. So let's see the agenda of this presentation. We will see at the beginning an introduction about AI, because it is something that could be useful, but I know that the audience of this webinar is heterogeneous, so I thought that could be helpful to introduce the theme, what we know about the AI, which is the context, which are the origins of this kind of models, and some definition, what it is and what it is not, artificial intelligence just now. Then the first two points are about the context, so how to use artificial intelligence in business cases, so the general approach, and a deep dive about the structured data. That is the theme of my speech today. Then we will go towards the main subject of this speech. It is the risk management. So we will see which kind of sources, unstructured data sources, of course, because it is the subject, we could use to create indicators different from the financial data that we saw also in the previous speech. That is a lot of about this. There are a lot of papers. There is an avant-garde, as we saw in the previous speech. With my speech, we try to focus on the possibility to use other kind of data. So we will see the approach that could be used to create algorithm, to create an indicator with algorithm, with the know-how of the expert of the domain, and approach with automatic indicator using the muscles, the capabilities of artificial intelligence and models, automatic models and statistical learning and so on. Then we will see the models about how to extract data, how to generate data with the generative AI, the aim of disambiguate, because of course when we get information from a big, huge amount of structured data, we have to disambiguate, because there are of course collision, homonymies and so on. And then and finally how to create reliable indicators. So that is our main aim. So to have indicators that helps us to take a decision, to go to the right direction for our companies, to choose or not the suppliers, and so on. And then a brief flash on the future possibilities. Okay, let's start with the context. I will fly very, very, very fast in this part, because there are a lot of colleagues, and I don't want to bother with this kind of things, but I would like to make this introduction. So there is, as we know, a big hype in the market. Everyone speaks about artificial intelligence the last 2 years. There is also a big hype in academy and in research and the universities. Also in my university, Bicocca, we have a lot of courses, a lot of masters, PhD about artificial intelligence, because it is something very, very, very trendy. But this, of course, leads also a lot of confusion. What is not. Also companies, also university has not a clear idea what it is and what it is not. Artificial intelligence, how to use it, for instance. The results of this very high speed, this acceleration, is the lack of experts. Even today, I teach in a data science course, so I see more or less 100 of students per year in Lombardy, but they are very few. The market needs more experts than this. However, AI is not, of course, a recent subject. My experience in the first AI projects has been delivered in 2012, so more than 10 years ago. But now there is something different from the past. which is how we arrive here. Just a brief recap. There has been a revolution in statistics from the ancient, the classical statistics, the surveys, the models, the correct sample, and so on. From that, with the introduction, some of the models that you use today, it was introduced in the first in the 19th. We saw in the previous presentation some of these models. For instance, random forest was introduced in 1983 by Salzburg. Then the neural networks, we saw different types of neural networks introduced by Hotfield in 1982. The very first paper, then in the 19th, it evolves. The super vector machine in the 1992 by Valtnik, and boosting by Shafai in the 1990. So this is the golden age of this kind of model that introduced a lot of new approach to the statistics that leads a lot of possibilities that explode in the after the first decade of the century, when we put the page a lot of paper, one after the other, exploring the possibilities of these new approaches, led to the explosion during the second decade, the time when arrived working with kind of models to help the business. And we are now in the actual decade with a big popularity, with the risk of the very high risk of the bubble risk, of the bubble, because as in the first the internet bubble at the end of the last century, when there is a too big hype, the risk is very clear, is very possible. Now let's see what is just to finish. What is and what is not the artificial intelligence today. Today, for me, it's a very important point. It's not real intelligence. It lacks a lot of capabilities of human that it's important to lead new projects. For instance, the fantasy, something new, the real lateral thinking, and so on. It is not a technology, because it's not a matter of technologies, of hardware, of software. It is a matter of models, statistical models. It is a matter of statistics. And it is not substitute of the management, because it is not something that can help to scare management, because it is not able to substitute them. So it is not a danger. So what it is? We said it is not real intelligence, but it is an extension of human elaboration capabilities. I mean, we have limited capabilities of computational capabilities in our brain. We have a lot of capabilities, but we have limited in the possibility of compute the data. But we can use this kind of models that make a lot of calculus, a lot of computation, and they give us the results in a short time, making a huge amount of possibility that we cannot deliver in a real in an acceptable time. It is not a technology, but it is, as I said, a mix of statistical models. So this is the artificial intelligence today. It is not a substitute of a manager, we said, but could be a couple of glasses, a pedestal, a powerful assistant. So something that helps us to see better the reality, to understand something that it's high in below the noise, below a lot of data, so to make the decision. So we have an assistant. So at the end, it is an opportunity and not a danger. So I was in doubt if put this slide or not. Just 2 words about ChatGPT, because every time I speak about artificial intelligence in general, the question is, what and ChatGPT? Well, where is ChatGPT in this description? Well, as we know, it is about the generative AI that does not create just text as ChatGPT or the other Copilot and blah 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 models of generative text, but also code. So code program for programs from software, images, as we know, videos, musics, many complaints about also Sanremo. Some music seems to be created with a statistical model, with a genetic statistical model. Molecules, so in the research, we can create new molecules. Voices, it can simulate my voice, make me say whatever they want, and so on. So we have this kind of model. Which are the application of this kind of model, apart the chatbots or the psychologists to speak, or my new AI friend that seems human. This could be useful in some application, not very much, perhaps for business, apart chatbot, but there are also, we can create new generation search engines. So instead of putting keywords, we can make a question to Google that answer with the correct answer and not a lot of websites. Generate new contents to create communication and so on. A synthesis of huge data, we can use that. We can give to the model a huge amount of data, and we will see that could be useful also for the risk. And they can extract a synthesis or extraction information, particular information on structured data and so on. Problems, there are a lot of problems. It is not the subject for today, but there are problems of privacy, copyright. There are a lot of problems of cost because of the consumption of energy. And there are, for instance, for the banks and so on, there is a problem of transparency. So this model are black box, and if you decide to give finance helps to a company according to this model, you have to certify that this model is correct. So it cannot use very much a black box model such as this one. However, let's move towards the correct direction. That is how to approach with data science, with artificial intelligence, a business problem. The first point for me, it's very important, is to have a deep knowledge of the domain. It is not possible to take a data scientist, put in this kind of issues and say, okay, solve me the problem, if he doesn't know nothing about the domain, more if doesn't know very deep the themes, the subjects of the domain. Then not to try to go on the final point, step by step. The first results can carry new information to build a correct models towards the final results. So recursive approach. This third point, I'm trying to carry a battle in university, because a lot of exams are about, I give you the data set, try to find the best model. It is very important. But from my experience, the most important part is how you prepare the data, how you feed this kind of models. The simple model could give you very good results if you feed with good data. If you feed with low information data, even the best model cannot give you any good result. Everyone say garbage in, garbage out, because this is the theme. But in my experience, everyone think that the best way is to use the best model. The preparation of data, that it is something that we speak now, is the most important part of all these kind of projects. And then be short-sighted and far-sighted. So you have to try to get the results tomorrow morning, because you need some results. You have to prevent the fraud and so on. But also far-sighted. I mean, you have to see which are the mechanism, which are the structure inside the data, to prevent future, to act so that in the future you are prepared to face, to tackle other frauds, to avoid frauds and so on. So to understand the mechanism inside the market, inside the particular environment and so on. So you have to be actionable, short-sighted, and strategic, far-sighted. Then let's speak about unstructured data. Structured data are very important. Why? Because we have a huge amount of unstructured data available now from the web, a lot of text, billions of possible tests about any subject. The social network, a lot of communication between users about everything. documents in general, let's say about contracts of the company, the tickets, the complaints, the laws, the judgments, the rules, a lot of data that are unstructured because are text, because we are human and we do not speak using a database. We speak about using Italian, English, and so on. So it is a text and it is not structured. So we have to see important source of information. This is there are a lot of information in this unstructured data, but it's difficult to mill this, to extract this information from unstructured data, even because they are very, very big. So we have to evaluate also the cost if we have to read humans reading every text, of course. So this is the one of the most important cases where artificial intelligence can help us very, very well, because we have clear the task, we have clear the rules, but we do not have the time. It was too big an effort to make it with human beings. This is something that our new slaves, that are machines, can help us. And this is where artificial intelligence can help us to achieve a good result. So let's focus on the risk. That is what we are speaking about in this webinar. There are a lot of literature about, as I said before, financial data. We saw a lot of very interesting presentation before about how financial data can be used, the frontier of this kind of approach, a lot of things to do. I will speak about another possibility. So this is very covered by a lot of literature, but there are other possibilities that is using, as we said, unstructured data. So text in the companies, for instance, news, the contracts, the sentences, the communication in the company, behaviors, both of the company and of the employees, for instance. So construct the profile of behaviors, the context, the market where the company operates, or the geolocalization, where the risk of the particular area or other area, the correlated data, for instance, the suppliers, the customers, the partners. So there are a lot of data, but we have to take them and to create something that help us to create an indicator, because we do not want a lot of data, we want information. So there is a very big difference between data and information. Humans want information, so we have to transform this kind of data in information. And it's more difficult if they are unstructured, of course. This is the point. So there are two possibilities. We can use our knowledge to create algorithm, knowing that, for instance, a particular information, for let's say in financial, if there is a particular transaction, could be the sign of fraud. So we take this information and create indicators, or we can use the pure force of artificial intelligence in machine learning, as we said, pure approach, using, as in the previous presentation we said, as using supervised data if we have. If not, using all the approach of unsupervised, as we saw and we heard in the previous presentation. So let's start from the first one, that it is data build to build ex cathedra indicator. I mean, indicator using data data that we can imagine can be used to create evaluation of risk. For instance, let's go deeper in the possibility. For instance, ownership structure and history. We have this information easily. We can detect, for instance, anomalous complexity of the ownership structure. So there is something strange. We know that particular company structure could be an indicator, could be something that has a score of risk of anomalous and risk of this company, or links with legal arrangements, or anomalies in the structure and distribution of the shares, because there are a lot of or a big share with a very old person that is in a particular area, so it could be something that is not the real owner of the company, and so on. The localization. So and just a point. I'm listing this one because these are the data we used in an application we realized using this kind of indicator to create this kind of data, to create indicators according to the experience. For instance, localization, we work with the Cattolica Center of Research, that is Transcrime, that create a lot of information database of the jurisdiction for each comune in Italy, with the score of risk of each commune in Italy. There is a map updated constantly with this indication. So if the board or if the owner or if the company is in one of the high risk jurisdiction, there is a more high risk of corruption or criminality or whatever. So it's very important to use the localization where the people and the company is. The business sector, there are particular sectors that are more subject more risk than the others. There is a lot of papers, a lot of literature, a lot of studies about this. The management structure and the history, for instance, because anomalous composition or rotation of the board, or anomalies in the business life cycle, for instance, it is something that contribute to create the score of the risk. The financial structure, for instance, indicator of the shell company, which could be it is società cartiera in Italian, so, or abnormal growth rates, for instance. Political environments, so there are the PEP, the political exposed person, but we have also the database of all the local politics. So we have a complete coverage of this kind of information. Negative events and sanctions, so to previous crime incidents, adverse media, inclusion in sanction lists, mentioning journalist investigation. Everything is monitored constantly to create these indicators. Positive events also, why not? Awards and recognition, public initiative, charity, whatever. This could be something that moves the indicator towards positive values. Countermeasures, for instance, anti-mafia whitelist, SOA certification, AGCM legality rating, a lot of information that could be useful to contribute to create the indicators. And third parts, both individuals, for instance, owners, administrators, advisors, members, prosecutors, historic position, mayors, auditors, but also companies, controlled companies, controllers, clients, partners, providers, sponsored companies. You can monitor all this to understand the risk, to create a good risk value for the company. This is something that involves, as I said, the human know-how, the previous human know-how, and you can improve with statistical models. So let's move after this to the approach with the statistical model, that it is this. So we have to create a statistical models. We are used to call it machine learning. I prefer to call it statistical learning because it's more correct. It is not the machine that learns something, but the statistics that use models to learn, to improve to tune their parameters, to improve the performances. However, to build profile with a lot of feature, so we have to collect feature from outside, not just adverse media or the composition of the company, but other data that, in our mind, are not directly connected with the risk we want to evaluate. For instance, I don't know how many times the website is updated. A lot of different features that create a profile of thousands of features, thousands of covariates for the company we want to analyze. Collect past data and continue feedback to have a supervised approach, and implement predictive model using the past to predict the future. It's very simple. So you have the profile of the companies, you have the past events, and try to predict the future using past events. Saying this, could be simple. It's not simple, of course. Which could be the sources of these very rich profiles. For instance, the website, how many times it updates, as I said, the growth, the focus in the moment, the technology used, the performance of the web server, whatever. LinkedIn, what the employees says, how many times they post, what they speak about, such a communication, sentiment, compliance, web marketing, news, everything.
5 minutes, Silvio.
Yeah, I heard. So these are sources to build a profile, as you say, sentiment of the people, the communication they do on the social networks, the complaints of the user, how they move in the marketing, the news, the newspaper. So we can create a very rich profile of the company to predict the possibility of the risk and so on. Then let's focus the last slide before the future on the models. Which kind of models are involved in this after this collection? We have the first extraction model, from the simpler to the more complex, keywords and statistical algorithm to extract information from unstructured data, but also vectors approach that could be more that demonstrates to be more precise, of course, and then specialized LLMs. These are the generative artificial intelligence models that could be used also to extract information. There are then the generative models, synthesis of big amount of text. You have a lot of text, you have to make the synthesis, press overview, documentation that the company puts out on the website or on the newspaper, websites and social, the guidelines, and so on. You have a lot of data and you have to collect to create a single text, very simple, that synthesize everything. Then this is a very important problem, the disambiguation, because a lot of homonyms, there are the possibility, if you search of Silvio Gerli, you could find other Silvio Gerli, you have to decide if it's me that made this particular crime or not. So how? There are a lot of very interesting literature about this, we are involved in this. Usually we can try to focus on the famous 5W, that is something that helps you to understand something very, very deep, but we can use, on the contrary, to understand if the person is the same. So what, the topic and the context, if Silvio Gerli is speaking about, I don't know, the trade in China, probably it's not me. Geolocalization, where I lived in Italy, in the north of Italy, and so on. In South America, there is another Silvio Gerli. Probably it's not me. The ages. So I'm 50. If the crime is committed 45 years ago, it's not likely I committed a crime at the age of 5. So network. There are in the news where the Silvio Gerli appears with my colleagues. Probably it's me, because it's a person about my entourage. Coherence between the events and the profile. So why? This is a very high fly about this, but it is very important to disambiguation because it simplify the job of the analyst to understand the risk of this single company. And then the indicators. So this is very important. The indicators could be different dimensions. So not just one indicator, not just one score. For instance, the frauds, the risk of fraud, the risk of criminality, the risk of law violation, for instance, privacy, the risk of bankrupt, the risk of unreliability. There are a lot of risks to be evaluated. So we have to think about indicators. Then it has to be verified on the field. Our indicators are used also by political, European political actors, also by local police, also by Guardia di Finanza in Lombardy. They use our indicators. This is used and verified on the field. Deep domain know-how. So, as I said, we have to use models knowing very well the domain, and then use vanguard statistics. This is very important. There is a very high bleeding edge statistic. Every year, a lot of new models comes out. we continue study, we have a lot of publication, because this is something that helps to improve the performance. Let's take a look at the future. So which are the future challenges? Just a little list. We have to push the development in companies. So there is a lot of possibility. More the company use this kind of model, more this model will evolve, more the company will have results. To increase the competencies, because it's very important. To increase data sources, there are a lot of possibility to increase data sources. To tune indicators, because indicators are good, but have to be better and better. To push on authority to obtain better access to judgments. This in Italy, for instance, but in Europe it's difficult to, even if they are public, it's difficult to collect, and to share results and evidence to optimize resources. So every company makes analysis, it could share the results, could be helpful for everyone. Okay, for me, it's finished, 30 minutes exactly.